Hi guys, it's Graham. I just wanted to go through quickly assembly of the effector that I have just finished designing and making that enables me to fit a Mosquito Hot End to my Predator. I basically designed it to be able to be CNC machined from aluminium, but I did various 3D printed versions of the design to get everything correct, and then I took that and CNC machined it out of aluminium. Now this is the aluminium version. It's 6 millimeters thick, and there are 4 main parts to it. We have the front section, which mounts the Mosquito Hot End and the fan to cool that, and then we've got 2 other pieces here which hold the cooling fans. So in order to put this together, first of all we take and we assemble the brackets and supports for the cooling fans, and everything fits, they fit into slots in here, so they're accurately located, and each one is held in with 2 countersunk M3 screws. So we just go through the process of screwing those on, and the other side, got to get the orientation the right way around. That's the way it goes. There we are. Oop, dropping the screws everywhere. Here we go. That screws on there. What I did with the 3D printed versions, I didn't go to the trouble of all these screws and everything. I just glued those in place. So that's the 2 mounts for the cooling fans, and we won't attach those fans at the moment. Then we just push that aside for a second, and we've got the front section that the Mosquito attaches to, and that is held on with 2 screws and 2 spacers. So hopefully you can sort of see what I'm doing here. So what we've got is 2 screws go through, and then 2 spacers, and that doesn't matter which way around this goes because it's exactly the same both sides. There are holes, threaded holes in that I've put in that the Mosquito threads onto. That's attached, and then before that's put into there, we attach the cooling fan for it. This is not actually the correct fan. This is a 12-volt fan. I've got some 24-volt fans on order, so this is not the actual final fan, and that is then held on with, I hold it on with 4 screws, but you don't really need to use 4 screws. I could have just used 2 screws. I find it's easier to assemble this completely first before actually dropping it into the effector frame. I'm doing this a little quick at the moment. There we go. Now once that's done as a complete assembly, that is then dropped in to the frame just like that, and then there are 2 screws that hold that in place. They don't have to be countersunk. It's the right screwdriver for that. They're just done like that. So the main reason for completely assembling that first onto this this bracket is basically just makes it's just easier to do it that way rather than putting that in and then trying to finagle the screws don't go through. You can do it, but it's just easier to do it first. So in future, then to drop that out and do any maintenance on it, just undo these 2 screws and it all just falls out and we're done. So then the only other part is to attach the cooling fans, and you've got to get those the right way around. These particular ones have 3 screws holding them on. I'm using a different hex screw for these. And that one goes down into there. And the next one goes on just on the other side. You can only put these one way around. There are in fact 4 mounting holes for these, but you only need 3. Well, the fans have only got provision for 3 mounting holes. Last 2 screws. Oop. And there we go, that's the basic assembly done. That's the whole thing. Now, you may have noticed that this design of effector is to handle mag balls, because I have mag ball arms on my 3D printer. I did design another version of this which will take the standard arms that the Predator comes with. What I have here, and I'll just quickly, I won't put all these on. I've got these mag balls here, and these ones have an M4 screw in them, and they're 10mm diameter. So one screw goes in from the bottom, put a washer on it, and then the mag ball screws onto that, and then just do it up tightly and away we go. And the final thing that you would do is attach the magnet for the level sensor, and that fits on, which way around does it go? This way, and then that just literally screws on. That's got slots in it, so its position can be adjusted accordingly. So what I do is I just loosely put that in. I then take this, let it snap into position, then line it all up, do those up, and then that can be taken off and on as needed. So there you go, that's the basic assembly. I haven't tried this out yet, so I've yet got to test it out. I want to get the proper fan for this first, and I'll give it a go and let you know how it goes. Now, As far as the weight of this is concerned, I'll post the weights, but it is significantly, the basic effector itself, the framework of it is actually quite a bit lighter than the original Predator effector that comes with it in the original packaging. But the Mosquito Hot End, because it has a copper block on it, it does add a little bit of extra weight to it, but that is then compensated by the fact that the actual framework that everything mounts on is significantly lighter than the original effector. So all in all, the whole assembly is pretty much the same as an original Predator. All right. ABS, Mosquito clone hot end, first test. Okay, in summary, I just wanted to cover a few final points. Earlier on, you would have seen a video of how I assembled the aluminium machine version, and that's probably 3 or more weeks ago that I did that, and this has been working very well, and I've done quite a few tests with it and not found any problems. So what I have done since then, I've taken the CAD CAM files that I used to create the aluminium version on my CNC router, and I've remodeled those within the program that I use, which is Vectric Aspire, to create STL files so that a version can be made to print. And this sample one here that I tried out has been printed in carbon fiber PLA, but you could use anything else that you particularly like. The only thing about this is it's still printed in 4 parts, that is the bottom part and the fan supports, but instead of screwing the fan supports in, I just glued these in because I didn't think that tapping M3 holes into these would be secure enough, so I just chose to glue those in. It just means that the Mosquito Hot End is a little bit more fiddly to assemble. You can't put it in from the top, you've got to slide it in from underneath, and in order to do it you can't have any of the other fans installed yet, and it's just a little bit fiddlier to get these little spaces in and the screws in, but it works. I did it, and I tried this out and I printed a few things on this and it worked really well. Now the effector part is designed for mag balls, but I've also included an STL for the traditional arms that come with the Predator. Now, the main point about this is that Vectric Aspire that I use to do all my CAD/CAM work for CNC machining has got an option to model and generate STL files, but it's not the most fantastic quality in what it produces. Dimensionally it's fine. It's just that some of the edges you might see there in the video are just a little bit sort of mottly and a little bit sort of rough, but generally otherwise it works out quite well, and that's quite rigid. So that's available for people if they want to actually adapt this themselves and don't have a CNC router. There is a printed version. It would be nice if someone took my drawings of this, and on my website you can download the drawings that are all dimensioned and create probably in Fusion 360 some nicer STL files, but I'm not good enough with Fusion 360 to be able to do that myself at the moment. So also included on the website for download is an image with all these parts laid out with the dimensions of all the screws required. So the other part that I wanted to just cover is that I found that when I first started to use the Mosquito Hot End in the Predator, I had installed a 40-watt heater into that, and it just had struggled to keep constant temperature on the hot end. So once I then put a 24-volt 50-watt heating in it, it was perfect. I think it's just because this is a copper hot end, and it just requires a bit more oomph to keep it maintained at the right temperature. So you'll need 50-watt heaters for that, and also what I've got here is the Thermistor. This is one that probably the Mosquito Hot End is designed for, which is a 3mm tube, and that slides in. The other little modification that I did was the clamping mechanism is it doesn't work really well, and not to my way to hold that in position. So what I did with my Mosquito Hot End was to drill and tap an M3 hole for a grub screw, so that just slides in, and then that can be just held in with a grub screw to secure it into position. Just a little bit neater, but you may or may not want to do that. It's just something that I particularly did. That's about it really. The fan ducts are whatever you particularly desire, depending on what size cooling fans you have. When you buy these, they come with other incompatible sort of connectors for the Predator. I normally just leave those all attached. This is another one I'm making up at the moment, which is machined out of aluminium, and I normally put those all the parts in, and then get all of that together, and then reattach the correct connector that's needed for the Predator, which is, I buy these in lots of 10 at a time. It's a JST SM 2.54 2-pin cable. So I buy them with the cables already crimped into pins in there, and it's just a little length like that. And what I do is I just cut that off close, and then just splice the wires together and solder them together, and just use a little bit of heat shrink tube around it, and it saves me having to mess around with crimping tools. But you could use a crimping tool if you like, that's really up to you. With the STL, or by the way that you download, I've got two versions of mounting the Mosquito Hot End and the fan. There is a longer version, which you see there, but I've also made available a nice, neater, shorter version that fits into the slots just the same. So you can use whichever one you like. There's just a little bit less material in this one here. May reduce the weight just very marginally. So there you go. I hope you enjoy the video, and don't forget to visit my website where you can download a lot of additional information, all the still images, dimensions, component lists, and some appropriate links. Now, there's a lot of links that I don't put in for screws and all these other bits and pieces because they're pretty standard. When I buy screws, I buy a lot of them, so I don't have individual links for just buying 2 of these little spaces or whatever. So you'll just have to use a little bit of your creativity and a bit of searching to get those. But I'll provide as much information and as many links as possible to the various parts that I've used. But there you go. So I hope you find, again, this interesting and useful. Thanks a lot for watching, and take care.